Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Crystal Sosha, and welcome to our presentation titled Understanding the Basics of DBT, or Dialectical Behavior Therapy, Foundational Skills for Supportive Housing Staff. Like I said, I'm Crystal, and I'm one of the Senior Training and Consultation Specialists here at Rutgers School of Health Professions in the Department of Psychiatric Rehabilitation and Counseling Professions. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Today's webinar is hosted by DBHR through the Washington State Healthcare Authority and made possible in partnership with Rutgers Department of Psychiatric Rehabilitation and Counseling Professions and the Foundational Community Supports team at DBHR. This is an interactive training, and we encourage you to ask questions and participate throughout this session. The slides, as well as a link to the recording of this webinar, will be sent to you by email after the presentation. Some housekeeping items, as always. Just want to let you know that your audio and video are muted. So we cannot hear or see you, but we can communicate with you through the chat. So feel free to ask or respond to our questions by making sure that you're using the chat feature and pressing everyone. You can download the chats if you're interested in saving them for later by pressing those three dots on the side and saving the chat. As far as accessibility, we do strive to make our presentations as accessible as possible and available and accessible for screen readers. You do have the ability to turn on those captions. The captions should be on, so if you'd like to keep them on or turn them off, you have that capability as well. And always contact us with any accessibility concerns. Once again, this webinar is being recorded, and the presentation and recording will be shared with you after the completion of the series. So it has been quite some time since I've been here. We originally went through session 1, which was Introduction to DBT, or Dialectical Behavior Therapy and Strategies for Mindfulness. If you didn't get a chance to see that again, that recording and PowerPoint will be sent to you. Session 2, we cover DBT skills, training, and strategies for distress tolerance. Today, we'll be covering strategies for emotion regulation. And then next week, same time, we'll be covering strategies for interpersonal effectiveness. So again, if you missed out on those first two, have no fear. These are skills that build on DBT. It can be helpful to understand its foundation and its history. And nonetheless, you should still be able to follow the content perfectly fine. So checking in with all of you before we begin, we've got about a good amount of people here. So how are you feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10? Smiley faces here. I think you can actually put emojis in the chat if you're really interested. Scale of 1 to 10, 1 maybe is that lower energy side, not feeling your best, 10, and the happiest smiley, feeling your best today. We're halfway through the week. Let us know how you're feeling. I see 9. Oh, the 8 ball, that was clever. The 9 with the pumpkin for Halloween. Lots of different emojis. I love that we can add emojis on here. See, mixes 5, 6, 7s, 8s, feeling well, feeling like an 8. Some smiley faces. Oh no, Cynthia, 4, and maybe some nausea, not feeling too good. Sleepy from Ruby. All right. Well, I'm hoping my voice does not put you to sleep. Oh my gosh, the fire alarm is going off here every 10 seconds all day. That sounds absolutely horrifying, and I'm sorry that you have to sit through that. How's the weather like in Washington? Like, can you step outside? Today in New Jersey, the weather is looking like partly cloudy, pretty sunny. Perfect cold and wet, pouring down rain. Windy and cold. I'll let you know, right now in New Jersey, it's 76 degrees and pretty sunny.
We're in
We
the
are in
drought, though,
drought.
Crystal. We need that rain.
I know we do need rain. We have actually a fire advisory that no one in the state of New Jersey can have outdoor fire pits, grilling on the fire. So completely opposite from New Jersey to Washington. We're like experiencing polar opposite weather, temperature, cold, overcast, no rain. Cool. All right. Well, thank you all for checking in. I apologize. I'm gonna have to keep moving my computer as the sun starts shining. But we're going to keep moving. So we are going to get into a quick review. Again, for those of you that were not here for 1 and 2, I'm just going to briefly cover those skills so that if you feel like they may be helpful for staff within your supportive housing, or if you're joining from um, another role, these are skills that can be quite helpful when working with people in the community or really at any level of care. I love that some of us are feeling a 10. All right. So we'll keep checking in. But we're going to review session 1 and 2, like I mentioned. And I want to start with mindfulness, which I'm not going to so much go into the details. And like I said, the history of DBT, you'll get that presentation if you missed our first one. But what I want to cover is just an overview of mindfulness and really the importance of mindfulness as one of the foundational or core elements when we think about teaching people additional skills. And so when we're often teaching people skills, they're likely in that action stage or they have some motivation to change. They're interested in learning new things from you. They are working on goals with you. So when we talk about mindfulness, what mindfulness really does is to ultimately help someone reduce their experience of suffering, which is a term that Marshall Linehan, the creator of DBT, uses, and increase their sense of happiness, control, gaining this sense of awareness. Mindfulness is really this focus of attention to the present moment and really experiencing reality as it is, being less judgmental, letting go of some of those worry thoughts, maybe noticing what's happening within ourselves and outside of ourselves. Mindfulness is now really, I guess, widespread as a skill in many different types of modalities. But again, mindfulness is specifically taught as one of the first skills before people can learn how to regulate emotions or how to navigate a crisis or how to communicate effectively with someone. If we don't have any awareness into what's happening in the present moment within ourselves, in the world around us, it is very hard to regulate emotions. It's very hard to communicate effectively. So mindfulness is really this repeated effort and practice of bringing ourselves back into the present moment. It's not so much the emptying of the mind. Sometimes people think like, I don't like mindfulness, I can't meditate. And it's a little bit different than meditation. I think that meditation is a piece of mindfulness. But when we're talking about mindfulness, we're really just thinking and noticing our thoughts. We're noticing our feelings. We're noticing what's happening for us. I think it's impossible to not ever think about anything. We are human creatures and we think probably hundreds of thousands of thoughts a day, maybe some of us more than others. So it is impossible to completely empty our mind. Maybe we feel a sense of stillness or we feel a sense of calmness. But again, mindfulness is really this awareness and focus on this present moment. And with mindfulness, we talked about a few specific skills in session 1. We talked about wise mind, which includes the states of mind, which is reasonable or rational mind, our emotion mind, and our wise mind. And wise mind really is that gut intuition that we have when you are helping someone navigate a crisis or you're helping someone navigate a difficult situation or an uncomfortable situation, or you're helping them to not act on an impulsive urge. If there's someone who is able to be mindful and notice what's happening with them, can they ask or can you help them ask, is this something that my wise mind would do? am I acting or thinking or behaving from my wise mind? We also talked about the mindfulness what skills, which is what you do to be mindful. So you observe, you describe the world around you, you fully participate into things, and then the how skill. So how you be mindful. That could be through one mindfulness. Last time I had asked, has anyone ever driven from point A to point B and you had no idea how you got there? You got there safely, but you don't remember anything that just happened. Has that ever happened to anyone? I see hands are getting raised. Sure, yes, once it scared me. Yeah, it can happen to many of us. And it really is almost like this highway hypnosis that happens. So with one mindfulness, yeah, autopilot. We're moving through the motions. We're just kind of going, driving the way that we always drive. Maybe we had plans. This happened to someone I know the other day. They had plans to stop to get some ice cream, past the ice cream shop. They made it home, but completely forgot they were going for ice cream. What a big loss that was. But with one mindfulness, what we're really doing is being mindful of each present moment. So if we're driving, we just drive. If we're listening to music, we listen to music. I know that the car is so overstimulating. There's so many things you can do at once. But when we're teaching someone this skill, what we want them to really do is like learn how to slow down, learn how to take one thing and let it happen at a time. So if you're getting up and brushing your teeth, you're just brushing your teeth. I know I've walked around the house while I brushed my teeth and I turned on my coffee pot and I fed my cat. And now we're doing multiple things at one time, but what would it be like if you could actually just slow down and do one of those things at a time? So those are our mindfulness skills. When we teach about then this in the second session, we talked about distress tolerance. So what are some situations where some of the people that we're working with are in a crisis? What does a crisis look like for the people that we serve? Mental health crisis, maybe someone's decompensating, relapse, eviction, loss of housing. Someone showing that they're overwhelmed, yeah, for many different reasons. Overdoses, dealing with triggers, family, friends who are dysfunctional. Yeah, maybe it's the people, places, or things in their life. Hypervigilance. So now someone is maybe experiencing some trauma-related symptoms. They're feeling this sense of hypervigilance related to all the things that they're doing. It's becoming so overwhelming. Losing a job, CPS, yes. Any kind of loss, experience of grief, absolutely. So with distress tolerance, what we're really teaching the people that we're serving is to learn how to tolerate painful events, urges, and emotions without making things worse. So these skills really help us when we've experienced some really intense pain that can't be resolved in that moment. We know pain is part of the human experience. We can't avoid pain. And so what we're really also teaching individuals is to reduce suffering by accepting reality. And it sounds easier said than done. But we're teaching the people that we serve some of these short-term crisis survival skills to navigate some of those triggers, to navigate some of those distressing feelings. Some of these things, of course, are out of their control and can't be changed. Can we help them tolerate that uncomfortable feeling for a little while? It can be really difficult, especially if this is a situation that, again, is totally out of their control. As it relates to housing, like these are some things that we oftentimes can't control, and we know how difficult it is to help people transition or find housing that might be safe and stable and effective and aligned with their interests and all of those things. So some of the skills we talked about, again, if you weren't here, we talked about some of these here. Some might sound familiar. We talked about self-soothe, so using those five senses, tipping your body chemistry, which is really using cold temperature to change how your body feels when we're in a crisis. Body almost feels hot. People might almost feel, they describe like feeling red, excuse me, but really using this skill to help cool down the body. So again, encourage you to check out our previous presentations as it relates to these. We also talked about reality acceptance skills. So radical acceptance was a big one we talked about, as well as mindfulness of those current thoughts. I'm skipping through these because these are just some of our introduction, but what I will just briefly cover is this radical acceptance piece being one of the last skills we covered the last time I was here a few months ago. We know acceptance is not in the DBT world. Acceptance does not mean agreement. I think people oftentimes feel frustrated. I can't radically accept this because I don't agree with it, or I don't approve of this, or if I agree with this, that means I'm giving in. Um, Acceptance is not those things, and it's not having compassion for the horrible things that are happening. It might look like that, but acceptance really is acknowledgement. So I almost look at this as radical acknowledgement, acknowledging what is, letting go of fighting reality. We know sometimes pain can't be avoided, and it's often nature's way of signaling something is wrong. And what DBT tells us is that life can be worth living even with painful events in it. So Marshall Linehan describes this combination of pain plus non-acceptance, or not accepting the things that might be contributing to this situation, leads to suffering. But if someone is able to experience pain, have this component of acceptance or acknowledgement or letting go of fighting and kicking and screaming, they might experience some more freedom from that. Again, this is probably one of the more difficult skills. It is more difficult than saying it is what it is. It really is about acknowledging that difficult things can happen in this moment, and I'm working on letting go of those things. Or I'm working on letting go of those feelings, or I'm working on noticing how those feelings are impacting me, and I'm choosing to let those feelings go. All right. So we're going to switch into session 3, which is our content for today. In this next hour, we'll be talking about strategies for emotion regulation. When I think about emotion regulation, I think about living in this home, on this water, in the mountains, somewhere that really truly embodies the sense of serenity and peace. And I feel like I can regulate my emotions in an environment like this. Okay. So with our learning objectives, what I am going to cover again are some of these emotion regulation skills, understanding when to use them, identifying how to change some of those unwanted emotions through some of these skills we'll cover. We'll recognize how to assist clients in reducing vulnerability to their emotion mind and navigating some of those extreme emotions, as well as briefly reviewing a case study at the end if we have some time. So I realize I have homework review here, but it's been quite some time. Checking in if anyone has practiced either a mindfulness skill or distress tolerance skill, even in the last few weeks, and what was that like for you? Just a yes or no if you've practiced, or if you're someone who practices a mindfulness skill or distress tolerance skill. See some yeses. A couple yeses. I see yes for myself. It helped refocus. For others that have practiced some of these skills, whether mindfulness or distress tolerance skills, what was that like for you? What went well? Seeing some yeses. Again, I realize it's been quite some time, so it's hard to check in on homework review when it's been a little bit since I've seen you all. But as always, I encourage practicing some of these skills even after today and then teaching those skills. I think it's important that we practice these skills first before we're teaching with the people that we serve. Because if we don't know what the skill is like, or if we don't know what happens when we practice the skill, how can we ever teach it? Stephanie says, leaning into radical acceptance and not letting my own mental health get triggered. Amazing. Shout out for using that radical acceptance skill. That's a tough one. All right. So again, if you didn't get a chance to practice, we always encourage homework practice or skill practice. So feel free to practice after this as well. As I said, we're in our motion regulation skills module today. I'd like to start with activities always. I know I've engaged you already a bit, but you may have done this activity with me before. If you have not, what I'd like for you to do is find a piece of paper or pen or use your computer, writing your name vertically on a piece of paper or the name you go by from top to bottom. And then identify activities you enjoy using each letter of your name. And you'll see how this connects later to what I describe as one of our emotion regulation skills. So for example, I wrote my name here. So for Crystal, I identified activities that I enjoy that start with C. So crafting, coloring, cloud watching. For R, I put riding a bike and so on and so forth. You'll see all the things that I truly enjoy. So I'll give us just a few moments if you can. And I'm seeing some others respond to our previous question. Thank you for sharing. I see this wasn't recent, but I recently. So, thank you for sharing. Any ideas for the letter I? Emily has this challenge with vowels in her name, so she knows. Any ideas for the letter I? I guess, can you put ice cream? Eating ice cream or ice skating or introspection? Two people put introspection. What are the odds? I know I is hard. Do your best. Oh, identifying types of clouds or butterflies or plants. Imagining. Now we're all coming up with eyes. So I'll give us a few moments if you'd like to write those down, and then I'll check back in with you all. I'll give us 2 minutes. Icebreakers. And feel free to be as creative as you'd like. I like that idea. Natalie says, if you start like I love and then fill in the blank, so then you can put any letter that you want. Up to you. And if you finish and are brave like Ruby and you'd like to share, Feel free to put that in the chat. Love all of those. Rocks under sand, buds yonder. Oh no, please feel free to share. That was my next question. I was just giving us some time to write our own. Once you do fill out your own, feel free to do exactly that and put it in the chat if you feel comfortable. I love seeing what everyone comes up with. And again, this is helpful in the future as we get towards the end of this presentation. Felicia, I see focusing, eating, loving, imagining, cooking, ideation, activities. Amazing. It was another 30 seconds here. Oh, there's two Felicias here. Felicia N, as in, I don't want to mess up your last name spelling, says family time. Oh, and you know each other. Family time, entertaining guests, laughing, icebreakers, cooking, investigation shows. That's a good eyeliner too. Animal videos. Same name and vastly different activities, so very cool. I see Diana driving, introspection, imagination, animal time, new recipes, nailing that new recipe. Always my garden. Music, listening, singing. So while you are putting those in, I'm going to start transitioning us over in just a moment. But again, being mindful of all the activities that are possible. And I try to use a name or the person that you're working with's name because now, okay, one, we're thinking outside the box. We are coming up with activities that we may not have thought of when someone says, I have nothing to do. All I do is stay at home. I don't have any friends. I don't have anyone to talk to. Are there any activities that this person enjoys doing? Mark says making things, animals in the backyard, riding bicycles, cooking, coffee. I should have done cooking and coffee on mine too. So all of these activities will help, again, help someone think outside the box, help someone come up with activities that they may not have thought of, help someone to identify some possibilities that they could engage in. And if they don't know how, or if they're working on practicing or trying to learn a new skill, maybe that's your opportunity to support and help this person as well. Arts, crafts, doodling, painting, agriculture, igloos, games, entertaining. Tanya, found a fellow antiquer. Nesting yoga, eating, loving on my dog. Awesome. And I hope seeing all of those in the chat also gives you some ideas of activities that you can engage in with the people that you're working with, or even for yourself. I see some people saying hello to each other. What was this activity like before I transition into our lesson for today? What was this like for you all while others are still sharing theirs? See, jamming out, acting classes, yoga, music, island hopping. Ooh, enjoying my kids. What was the activity like for you? Fun. made me really think about the things I truly do enjoy, but don't always have the time or energy to do so. And that's a good point too. Yeah. It's intended to be joyful or help someone critically think, and also maybe have some gratitude or think about, in those times where I'm struggling with engaging in activity. I know that there's so many things that I used to like doing or did like doing. Ooh, investing in self, another I. Lots of people with I's in their name. Juggling, appreciation networking. All right. Thank you all for doing that and appreciate some of the feedback as well. Hoping that this is something that you can do with the people that you work with as well. I'm going to transition into emotion regulation now, the moment you've all been waiting for, that I'm keeping you on the edge of your seat for. What comes to mind when you think about emotion regulation? And you could say regulating your emotions, but what else comes to mind? Self-control, tools for improvement. Control, self-control. Focusing on calming down from stress. Yeah. Mindfulness. Yeah, definitely need some mindfulness to be able to regulate what we're experiencing, anticipating triggers. Not letting emotions control you, regulating others. And thank you, Christine, for sharing as well. Absolutely. So emotion regulation really is this ability to control or influence the emotions that we're experiencing when you have them or how you experience and express them. Sometimes we may not know when emotion comes up for us, but we know what we can do for ourselves to navigate that uncomfortable feeling, or maybe to experience that really pleasant and joyful feeling. Knowing the cause and effects of emotions, yeah, using the tools we have available to keep our emotions stable, absolutely. So this first part that we'll cover is really this kind of awareness of our emotions, and then the second part of this is really learning how to regulate those emotions. So we need to know what our emotions are before we can actually regulate them. Yes, absolutely. So the point really is, if we don't have any awareness or mindfulness into that feeling or that emotion, and helping the person that we're working with identify that feeling or emotion, then they might not be able to learn what to do next. And think about, I may be getting ahead of myself actually. I am. So I'm going to pause here, but I'm going to keep moving. So emotion regulation is like a box of cupcakes, and this is the best analogy that I came up with on myself. I give myself this own credit. It probably exists somewhere else. But it is like this variety of cupcakes. Emotion regulation teaches us some of the following. But one day we may feel like a plain cupcake. One day we may feel like a vanilla frosted cupcake. One day we might feel like a rainbow sprinkles cupcake. And sometimes we feel like the caramel nut cupcake. But all of these feelings serve a purpose and a function. And so with emotion regulation, we are helping the people that we serve, or if we're using these skills for ourselves, helping people to understand and name their emotions, as well as decreasing the frequency, so how often and how intense these unwanted or ineffective or painful or distressing emotions come up. We're reducing that emotional vulnerability to then increase resilience and ability to navigate these difficulties, and then ultimately decrease emotional suffering. We know sometimes that emotions and experiencing emotions and regulating emotions, or for some people, it's even like suppressing emotions, can be automatic as well as consciously controlled. So we're going to focus on really increasing this conscious awareness through this skill, and so that people can regulate their emotions automatically and have the tools to do so effectively. So some of the skills, we'll cover a couple of these, but emotion regulation covers so many skills. We don't have time for every single one, but if you're ever interested in learning more about dialectical behavior therapy and the skills within it, you'll know that all of these are within the module. So it's about understanding and naming emotions. So really being able to explore what emotions do for you, acting opposite, which will talk about problem solving, reducing vulnerability to emotion mind to help people build a life worth living, and then managing some of those really difficult emotions. So in order to talk about emotions, we also have to talk about what emotions do for us. So what do emotions do for us? Turn that into a question. What's the purpose of emotions? Yes, they can be motivators. Emotions caution and warn us of danger, identify danger, survival. Absolutely. I think that was my first bullet. We need emotions for survival. And the purpose of emotion regulation and being able to navigate difficult emotions is not to get rid of them. The point is to never feel our feelings. The point is not to push or stuff or repress feelings forever, but it is to help people recognize that emotions do prepare us physically for action. A couple of us mentioned cautioning us and warning us of danger. It also communicates to others and to ourselves. And so we want to be mindful of all these things that emotions do for us. So keeping these kind of core components in mind as we move forward, because we know that despite all of those things, there's a lot that makes regulating emotions hard. It is not an easy thing to do, and it is oftentimes one of the biggest things that people struggle with. What makes regulating emotions hard? Emotions have a chemical element, hormones. Yeah. Our health, major trigger, uncontrollable emotions. Trauma responses may put you in fight or flight. Not having the tools or the knowledge of emotion regulation. Yeah, oftentimes we find it's a skills deficit. It's not that someone can't, it's that they don't know how. Hunger, angry, waiting for the next, lonely, and the tea. I knew what you were doing there, Roy. I usually hear tired at the end of that too. Yes, negative thought patterns, environment, fear. Definitely. So I think we covered many of these. Biology and the impact that our bodies, genetics have on us makes it all the more difficult to regulate emotions. We could be hardwired as someone who's a highly sensitive person, and it makes it, again, all the more difficult to regulate those really difficult, intense emotions. We might not have the skills, or we might not have effective skills. How many people that you serve engage in ineffective behaviors, but it's because they don't know anything else. For example, people who might engage in substance use to cope, or people who might engage in impulsive behaviors or self-harm behaviors. It is a skill. It may not be an effective skill in that moment. Reinforcement of emotional behaviors. So if people only listen and help you when you're very sad or feeling depressed or cry a lot, think about children, it might be very hard for this person to stop being sad. It's hard to change an emotion when people are reinforced regularly. Current emotions or the emotion itself controls you instead of this person's wise mind. So our emotion mind takes over. It's hard to think clearly when we are in this really distressing, overwhelming, complete emotion overload, confusion. It's very hard to think clearly, which I basically just said this last one. This emotional overwhelm or confusion. And there's oftentimes emotional myths that get involved into this and are reinforced and influenced by our behavior. Think about for those of the people that you work with that have lived in an invalidating environment or an environment that has taught someone as a child that it's not okay to feel, it's not okay to express your feelings. They may believe these things as an adult, and they may believe it's not okay to be vulnerable. It's not okay to cry. It's not okay to express emotions. And it's not okay to share vulnerability with others. And this also includes, if we think about some of these emotion myths, you could think about people who believe, that emotions are facts. So if I feel it, it must be true. Rather than exploring, like, where is this coming from? Could this be trauma related? What's actually happening for me? So I'm going to skip over the poll, but there's a handout in emotion regulation that helps people really challenge some of these myths in a situation. So I'll give you a moment to look at this and I'll read some of them out loud. Let me know which stand out for you or the ones that you hear most often in the people that you're working with or for yourself, whatever is easier. So some of these myths include there's a right way to feel in every situation, letting others know that I am feeling bad is a weakness, negative feelings are bad and destructive, being emotional means being out of control, some emotions are stupid, all painful emotions are a result of a bad attitude. If others don't approve of my feelings, I obviously shouldn't feel the way that I do. Other people are the best judges of how I'm feeling. Painful emotions are not important and should be ignored. And extreme emotions get you a lot further than trying to regulate your emotions. Which ones have you heard most often? You can identify the number 1 through 10. I see 4. So being emotional means being out of control. This kind of shame, I see number 2, letting others know that I'm feeling bad is a weakness. So I can't be perceived as weak. And a lot of what we're doing here with this is a handout that can be used, is helping people to challenge those myths. So how might they think of these things in a different way? How might they challenge this myth and speak to someone who is experiencing a similar kind of thought about their emotions? Number 7, 259. Right, so this kind of invalidating, ignoring emotions. I shouldn't feel this way. It's bad to feel this way. Yeah. So again, a great handout to share with people who might be feeling some of these myths. Some of the people that I've worked with came up with really incredible challenges. I wish I kept a running list of them because people can be so creative with some of these. The next part, oh, let me go back. Resonated with 8. Other people are the best judges of how I'm feeling. Yeah. Maybe it's hard to trust ourselves. Only other people know how I'm really feeling. I can't be the one to determine what I'm experiencing. Thank you all for sharing. So when we continue to talk about emotions, we also have a handout that describes emotions, and it's called this model for describing emotions. And it goes through all of these pieces that I'm going to go through one at a time. When someone experiences an emotion, usually there is a prompting event. So sometimes there are events or situations that occur right before this emotion actually starts. They're the cues that set off this feeling within someone. It's not necessarily the events that lead up to the situation, but it can be external. It can be outside of this person. It could almost be like one of those cherries on the sundae where, it's like a rainy day when you plan to have an outdoor picnic or an important event and you can't control the weather, but it's an external factor. Or it could be these internal components. So things within the person could be their own thoughts, behaviors, physical reactions. And then the next piece is this attention or awareness. So this person needs to have some awareness that this event happened and that it's making me feel whatever feeling that might be, uncomfortable, sad, distressed, frustrated, annoyed. And then there's this interpretation of these events. So they're the thoughts, the beliefs, the assumptions about that event, how they appraise this event. So I often say, what's the story that you're telling yourself related to this event? What meaning are you ascribing to this event? We also know, like we mentioned, there's vulnerability factors, events from the past, biological factors, unresolved trauma that also play a role in this kind of connection of the way someone is experiencing their feelings. Biological changes, like I just said, so changes within the brain and the nervous system. The things that they're experiencing within their body or the sensations, like when someone is feeling sad, maybe they're feeling this kind of like heaviness, or they're feeling really fatigued, low energy, kind of this emptiness. With expressions, this is what's happening within our face and our body language, all of these nonverbal components. With actions, that's what this person actually ends up doing. So as a result of this prompting event and all of these things contributing, what did this person end up doing as a result of that prompting event? And then this person is able to, this is something that you can do after the fact or help this person identify, like after this event occurred, or to give them some insight into what happened. You want to help them then identify and name that emotion. And then you can explore with them like some of those after effects, so those intense emotions that come up after. For example, we know someone who's experiencing a really powerful thought or memory or feeling, and it leads them to the inability to think clearly. Maybe they're feeling sadness, but then that sadness leads to feeling anger, it leads to feeling frustration, it leads to feeling shame. I shouldn't be feeling this way. So all of these things combined help someone to really describe some of their emotions and how they're feeling. These are great handouts and literally just described what I went through. So when you're helping someone describe emotions, you can really find these all online. It's Emotion Regulation Handout 6. So it gives you ways to describe emotions. So for anger, it gives you many other words to describe anger. You can have the person even add some words. It then goes through that whole cycle that we just talked about. So the prompting events, the interpretations of that event, the biological changes, expressions, after effects, what happened at the end. And you kind of get to see this full picture for this person. And this is, again, especially helpful for people who really struggle with identifying and naming those emotions. So a really helpful tool. Okay. Jumping into problem solving, this is something that I shared earlier. But what comes to mind when you are someone who needs to solve a problem? What do you do? How do you do that? What are some options to solve a problem? Write it out, brainstorm, gather facts. I see, thanks to lived experience, I'm getting better at defining the actual problem first. finding out the event that caused the discomfort or issue, deconstruct the problem, itemize its parts. Very specific. Yeah. I'm very solution oriented, so I usually will make sure that clients discuss emotions first by asking, do you want to brainstorm solution or keep talking about it? Yeah. And I really love that because sometimes we jump into this problem solving mode. We're one step ahead of this person. And so we used to do that too at the last organization that I worked for. We often talked about, and I do this with friends too, like, are you looking for emotional support, problem solving? Are you looking for someone to vent to? Are you looking for someone to listen? That could be very helpful. Value words and their meaning, decipher emotions behind them. Yeah. So DBT talks about these problems, or I'm sorry, these solutions to the problem. You can either solve the problem if you identify all the details, you can find a way to feel better about the problem, you can accept and tolerate that problem using distress tolerance skills, or you can stay miserable by not using any skills or using ineffective skills. And so we're on this emotion regulation piece, which we'll be talking about today, how we can actually help people feel better about that problem or change their feelings if those feelings don't fit the facts. So when we're helping someone with changing those unwanted emotions, oh, I see another comment. Finding a solutions event for reading into the solution. Interview the self for value about the intentions for therapy for facts. So yeah, so many different ways to solve a problem. And when we want to help people change those unwanted emotions, we can help people check the facts. So we can make sure that the facts are true, that we have evidence to support those facts. We can problem solve if that's a possibility. And if our feelings don't fit the facts, we can act opposite. So when we're helping someone check the facts, and again, we'll share this all with you, so don't feel pressured to write everything down. Yes, making a list or plan. So when we're helping someone check the facts, these are kind of the step-by-step 1 through 6 steps to be able to help someone check those facts. So we know that many emotions and actions are really set off by our thoughts or interpretations of the events, not the event themselves. Like I mentioned before, it's like a combination of things. What was actually happening before that event? How did I interpret this event? So sometimes we see event, thought, emotions. So an event occurs, the thought happens, and then we feel something. Or there's an event that occurs, we feel something, and then we create a narrative around that feeling. So we really want to help someone identify, okay, what is this emotion that I want to change? Maybe it's sadness, it's frustration. What is prompting that emotion? What event is prompting that emotion? Maybe this is finding out that your best friend made plans without you, or what you are then interpreting. So number 3, what are my interpretations? If my best friend makes plans without me and they're going to get ice cream and I'm not invited, maybe I'm thinking this person does not like me anymore. They don't want to be my friend. And that's how I'm interpreting that situation. And I really love that, Mandy. Mandy says, sometimes the only way I can get through shame, which seems to be at the core of every emotional reaction, is by stating repeatedly, I'm okay, I'm enough. Yeah, I always tell people shame often dies when it's told in shame dies in safe spaces. So if you're able to share that shame with someone else, it often kind of dissipates or feels less large. And I like those kind of self-statements. So now that we're interpreting this situation of my friend must not like me, I must have done something horribly wrong, you want to ask, am I assuming a threat? So we know danger and discomfort are 2 different things. So chances are I'm not in danger. I might be uncomfortable that maybe I embarrassed myself or I said something wrong or whatever that case may be, but I'm not in imminent danger. Asking what is the catastrophe? So what's the worst thing that could happen? Imagining it happening and then kind of playing that tape forward. What's the worst thing that could happen? And imagine coping with it well. Maybe the catastrophe is like worst case scenario thought is we're never going to be friends again. I'm never going to talk to her. She's never going to talk to me. She didn't invite me for ice cream. That means that she doesn't like me and I'll never get to talk to her again. Does my emotion or its intensity fit the facts? So maybe I am feeling sad and maybe I am feeling uncomfortable, but maybe my emotion doesn't necessarily fit the facts of the situation. So thinking about like how likely is it that this person doesn't want to be my friend? Maybe they had plans with someone else. Think about how great those outcomes might be, how effective having this emotion right now is in your life. So is it effective to remain sad for the next month because my friend didn't invite me for ice cream? Probably not. So being able to talk through with someone, okay, I was able to explore all these things. Maybe my emotions don't fit the facts. So if my emotions don't fit the facts, what we're going to help someone do is act opposite. So opposite action tells us when your emotions do not fit the facts or when acting on your emotions is not effective, we want to learn and teach someone how to act opposite. For example, if someone is experiencing this emotion of sadness, maybe they have this urge to withdraw, isolate, stay in bed. And in order to support someone, we want to support them in acting opposite on that action urge. So we're not going to help them get happy. So we're not helping the opposite of sadness. We're helping them to change that action urge. So the opposite of withdrawing or isolating might be getting active. And that might look like, let's put one foot on the ground. You know, you've been in your home for quite some time. I wonder what it might be like to put 2 feet on the ground outside of your bed. And then could you stand up? And then could you walk to your desk? And then could you go to the bathroom and brush your teeth? And then kind of continuing to act opposite all the way. So we really want to help someone act opposite on that action urge, not that feeling specifically. So in order to help someone do that, when we're teaching opposite action, we want to help them identify and name that emotion. So again, we're helping someone to increase their awareness into what they're feeling. If you need to use a feelings wheel or if you need to help explore using some of these additional handouts, feel free to do so. You want to help this person check the facts like we just did. And if the facts don't fit the situation, then we're going to work with someone to act opposite. So now we're helping them to identify and describe their action urge. So, for example, how do you feel when you are on your way to work and let's say you're drinking your cup of coffee in the car and you're already running late and someone cuts you off and they're driving 20 miles under the speed limit and you're already running late? How might you feel in that situation? Irritated. Yes. I feel irritated. Like I'm gonna catch every red light too, right? Just my luck. I'm already late. Angry, frustrated, anxious. Yeah. So maybe it is reasonable to feel irritated, to feel frustrated, but or to feel stressed, to feel anxious. What might not be reasonable is to then engage in road rage and tailgate this person for the next 15 minutes and follow them all the way to their job. And now you're late for your job. So opposite action really tells us, okay, let's avoid that. Let's Instead of attacking, can we approach with kindness, which is a really difficult thing to do. I like to give people thumbs up in the car when they do that to me. It's very nice. So again, we are now helping this person check in with wise mind. Is this a wise mind decision? Is acting on this emotion effective? Helping them to identify those opposite actions. So can we give that person a thumbs up? What can we do differently? Just like the example I gave before, if this person is isolating and withdrawing, can we help them to get active, get moving? And I don't mean like running a marathon, I mean one step at a time, literally. Maybe they have slippers on the outside of their bed. Can we put our slippers back on? Or can we put our sneakers on if we're going outside? And then we're helping someone act opposite all the way. So this person puts their feet on the ground, they stand up, they move to their desk, they move to the bathroom, they do all those things. And then you're continuing to repeat those actions and continue to act opposite until that action urge of that emotion, let's say sadness or frustration, changes. And hopefully it changes in a more effective way. Any questions on anything I've covered so far? I know I'm moving through a couple skills and a few more to go. Or comments, open to comments. All right. Oh, can you elaborate how to offer opposites? Yes. So I will say there is a great handout. If you look up emotion regulation handout 6 and 11, it actually lists step by step. For this emotion, here's an example of an opposite action. For this emotion with this action urge, here's an example of an opposite action. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that handout, emotion regulation handout 6 and 11. It pairs both of those two together. Yeah. You're welcome. And again, we can't offer opposites until we help this person identify this is what I'm feeling and this is what I'm experiencing. And maybe these feelings are too intense. I'll give you some resources as to where to find the handouts at the end of this presentation. I believe you can find them anywhere online as well. Sure. Okay. The other piece is problem solving. So when your emotions fit the facts of a situation and you want to change your emotions, then the situation might be the problem. So solving the problem might reduce that intensity of those emotions. So we're helping people figure out and describe the problem, check the facts, maybe exploring what their goal is in solving that problem, helping them brainstorm every possible solution, like every solution, and then helping them to choose a situation or a solution that fits the goal and is likely to work. We're helping them put that solution to action. Did that solution work? If it did, yay, congrats. If not, we're going back to step 5 and picking a different solution. If we're helping someone figure out how to get to work, and let's say we've brainstormed 5 different options. We can call a friend, we can take the local bus, we can take the local train, we have a car. Maybe as staff, we're able to drive someone to work the first time. We've identified those 5. Maybe the first time this person has a hard time navigating the bus system, doesn't make it to work on time, doesn't work too great. This person is late to work, feeling really frustrated. Okay, let's explore another solution. So problem solving can work really, again, for many situations when someone's emotions do fit the facts and we need to explore how to solve that problem then. The last piece that we'll cover are 3 different skills specifically for reducing vulnerability to emotion mind. And it includes these 3 skills. So accumulating positive emotions. I don't prefer to say positive emotions. I prefer to say like effective or joyful or pleasant or those kinds of words rather than positive or negative. I feel like each emotion, or I do believe that each emotion serves a purpose and a function. Again, that's a personal preference, but these are the skills that are within that reducing vulnerability to our emotion mind. We won't cover all of these, but we will cover the first one and a few of the others. So with emotion regulation, to help someone accumulate those positive emotions, again, Marshall and Hand's words, what we want to help them do is build some of those positive experiences now. In the very beginning, you were able to identify some of the activities that you enjoy doing. So there's actually a handout, and I'll share on the next slide. It's a list of over 200 pleasant events or activities that you can share with the person that you're working with. If they have a hard time identifying activities, you can share that handout with them as a way to think of activities that might be helpful. And then maybe this person can pick, one or two activities that they enjoy, maybe practice them, try them out in the next week before they see you again. Maybe there's someone who's been staying in their home for quite some time or apartment, and they're looking on practicing the goal of getting out of their house, but they don't know what to do. So many activities on that list of pleasant events. You want to help them to then be mindful of these experiences. So focusing on the present moment and the way this person is feeling, engaging in this activity. They are fully present. They're not multitasking. They're not, doing 500 other things. They're fully engaging in that experience. And then you're also encouraging them to be unmindful of worries. Excuse me, does anyone get the Sunday scaries? I sure do. Thank you. I'm glad I'm not alone. I know some of us, if you don't know what the Sunday scaries are, it's that feeling when maybe again, this happens sometimes. May not happen anymore if you're feeling really thrilled with where you're at in your life, and maybe sometimes it is just kind of this fear of letting go of the weekend. But the Sunday scaries are that Sunday night when you start to feel worried about everything you have to do the next day, or if you ever go on a vacation or you take some PTO and you are ready to come back and now you're anticipating all the things you have to do when you get back to work. Instead of enjoying maybe the last Sunday night dinner you're having with family and friends, instead of really being present in that final moment, you're already kind of anticipating future plans for tomorrow. Yes. Oh, Felicia says, I scheduled 2 hours on Sunday to manage my Monday work anxiety. Love that. I've seen other people get those. Yeah, especially with planning and going on vacation. Yeah, it's the anticipation of leaving and then what am I going to come back to? So being unmindful of those worries, which sounds silly because usually we're mindful of things. We want to be unmindful of those worries. So letting go of the worries, letting go of what might happen after, letting go of what might happen on Monday, letting Monday come as it is, and being very mindful of our Sunday experience, being very mindful of whatever day that is that we are engaging in this activity. And yes, so hard just to say to your Sunday, enjoy the moment. Absolutely. So sometimes we need some things to help us get out of those Sunday scaries or to help us get out and let go of those really uncomfortable, distressing feelings. We all need pleasant events in our lives. And we talk about trying to plan these events in advance and trying to do one at least once a week. And I gave a few examples, but again, if you look up emotion regulation, handout 16, that is the pleasant events list. It includes 225 lists of pleasant events. And so you can take care of plants, you can ride a bike, you can go on a hike. So many different things that you might help someone do. And even if they're interested in it and they've never done it, maybe now you're supporting them with exploring what that might be like. Maybe it's talking to a new friend or making a new friend. Maybe it's crafting, baking a cake for someone. However that looks, you're helping this person to learn ways to find things that bring them joy and bring them meaning. Okay. what transitioning into our last few skills here. Probably one of my last questions that I'll ask you. What are some things that you value, whether that's as a person, an employee, a friend? What are some of your values? For example, you might be someone who values kindness. You might be someone who values contributing to a larger community. You might be someone who values being part of a group, or you might be someone who values success. I see honesty, trust, my supervisor, peace, honest, genuineness, love, belonging, inclusion, friends, family, integrity. Yes, and having someone that will do what they say they'll do. Appreciation, community, security, teamwork, integrity, consistency. Yes, absolutely. A willingness to discuss past, being uncomfortable, calmness. Yeah. So all of these things are things that we value, and it's so helpful to explore the things that the people that we work with value as well. It's hard to be happy in life without a life worth living. An orderly space. Yeah. So this is really a fundamental tenet of the DBT skills that we talk about. We talk about adding not only more positive events, but also identifying values that are important to someone. So long-term happiness helps someone to really experience life as worth living, living according to our own personal values, and feeling like we're aligned with that. So I often think about people who feel a lot of shame is really related to because they're not connecting with their values. Guilt is about the things that we do. Shame is often connected to who we are, or the things that we're doing aren't aligned with who we are. So you can ask someone some of the following: what in life really matters to you? What is it in your life now that you don't want to lose? What direction do you want your life to go in right now? Um, are you doing things that you value? Are you doing things that go against your values? So all of these things can be so important to ask. And again, there's a handout that matches this, so you can have someone go through those values and really take a closer look at it. If they're not even sure what they value, okay, well, let's take a look at some examples, and maybe something will really stand out to you, like something that you really believe in to be part of a true key component of your life. Another skill, because we have so many skills here, another skill within emotion regulation is helping someone to cope with difficult situations. And this is almost like, I like to call them like cope ahead plans. So if someone is in a situation that might be difficult, uncomfortable, distressing, okay, let's talk about that situation. What is that situation that might likely prompt a problem behavior for that person? So maybe it is about being around family or friends that are triggering and uncomfortable. And yes, let's have a plan B in our pocket. Christine, thank you for some of those as well. Yeah, let's have a plan B. So if we need to cope with this difficult situation, let's describe that. Let's explore what we might do in that. Let's take some time to really imagine the situation. So CBT talks about playing that tape forward. Let's rehearse that, whether that's in real time together, and let's explore how we might cope with that. And then let's also practice how we might unwind or relax after that. Because we know it's so distressing and overwhelming, what can we do to take a step back, give us some time for ourselves, acknowledge that that was a really difficult and distressing situation and this person made it through effectively. Maybe it is, we have holidays coming up and this person might be seeing family members that might be triggering. Do we have, like Diana said, that plan B backup? What can we do? Can we remove ourselves and use the bathroom if we need to? Can we step outside for fresh air? Do we have a buddy in the family that is a safe person that we can rely on? And then maybe when we get home after a day of spending time with family at a holiday event. Let's practice some mindfulness. Let's practice maybe unwinding by watching TV or listening to music, whatever that might be for this person. So helping them to cope ahead with that difficult situation by preparing for it in advance, knowing that they're likely to encounter someone that could result in a really uncomfortable feeling. The last piece that I'll talk about, actually the last piece, is how to help someone manage their extreme emotions. And there's two skills. We'll just cover the mindfulness of current emotions. So this really helps to ensure that people are able to reduce that suffering so those emotions don't overcome them, so they don't feel stuck to their emotions, so they don't make things worse. And so we do that by helping them regulate their emotions through mindfulness of current emotions. Has anyone ever heard of the skill? This is my last actual question, I swear. Riding the wave, ride the wave of emotions. Maybe there's another phrase that you've heard. I'm most familiar with ride the wave. Anyone heard of that? Yes, I think so. For those of you that haven't, have no fear. So this mindfulness of current emotions really is like that riding the wave. Just as the ocean changes, so do our emotions. And it is normal to have, for example, if you're working with someone who is using substances, maybe it is normal for them to want to have the urge to use substances and to return to that previous behavior. And acknowledging that that urge might be temporary, and it is temporary. So this discomfort might last and feel long lasting, but eventually, like this wave, that urge or that uncomfortable feeling crashes and passes. So every minute that this person is able to delay that urge, they're able to be successful in regulating their emotions, and it increases the chance that the urge is able to weaken on its own. No problem. Thanks for being here. So a lot of this is really noticing, delaying, distracting. So we're observing that emotion, helping this person again. A lot of this is really noticing, awareness, insight, mindfulness, practicing mindfulness of what's happening in our body and teaching this person maybe what's happening in their body. This can be really uncomfortable for some people, again, with trauma-related history. Yeah. And so remembering and reminding this person that they are not their emotion. And when this person is experiencing a really uncomfortable situation, we can let our emotions push us around, or we can learn how to harness our emotions, especially when we're not able to, like we said, solve a problem. We're not able to get through that difficult situation right now. This is really about learning how to float with your feelings and letting them come and go. And again, every minute that passes is a successful moment because this person's able to successfully get through that uncomfortable feeling, knowing that this feeling too will pass. So all about going with the flow, knowing this feeling is going to feel less intense at some point. Maybe this person does need some distress tolerance skills to begin with if it's really, really distressing and it's hard to sit with that feeling, providing them with some other skills. But again, remembering that they are not their emotion, reminding them that they don't have to judge their emotions, feelings, radically accepting that feeling, that it's part of them, and it's not a bad thing to experience that feeling, but really inviting this feeling in and letting it hang out for a bit. It's okay to hang out, but you can't live rent-free in here forever. And we know that that feeling is going to pass. Okay. Any questions? We're getting close to the end of our time here. All right. The last thing here is an example that might be helpful when thinking about working with someone. So I'll read it and you can see it here. Sarah grew up in a close-knit family and had a particularly strong bond with her mother. 6 months ago, her mother passed away due to a sudden heart attack. This loss has profoundly impacted Sarah, leading to her experiencing homelessness, along with intense emotional highs and lows and difficulty coping with daily life. Sarah has a history of anxiety and mild depression, which has been exacerbated by her recent loss. She works as a cashier, a job she loves, but has struggled to attend work since her mother's passing. She has also withdrawn from friends and stopped participating in activities she once enjoyed. Despite having a supportive partner, Sarah often feels alone in her grief. She's unsure what she feels moment to moment and thinks she shouldn't feel this way anymore, in quotes, because of the time that has since passed. How might you utilize emotion regulation skills or any other skills that you may have learned in the past, but of course, focusing on emotion regulation to help Sarah in navigating these intense emotions? And maybe this is, again, could be a short-term solution for her. What are some things that you might suggest? Sabrina, yeah, honoring and holding space. And that means more than we realize. Building this trusting relationship with someone is so powerful. What else? See some other suggestions: holding awake regularly at a spot that they chose. So maybe we're helping this person kind of cherish some of these memories. Maybe we're having this person really, we're holding the space to help them acknowledge what they're feeling. They're almost in a place where they're invalidating these feelings, like, I shouldn't feel like this anymore. Okay, let's sit with that. Let's really explore what's happening. Stephanie says, help to recognize the emotion for what it is and just ride the wave. Yeah. She's having these kind of highs and lows that she describes. So acknowledging these feelings, identifying these feelings, helping them ride this wave. Maybe we want to add some mindfulness skills. Maybe what we want to incorporate. Yeah, grief definitely hits in waves for sure. So it is about, acknowledging and being okay with this feeling. No worries. Thanks for being here. And then letting this feeling pass and knowing that it might come back. Maybe you want to teach her some additional skills or activities that might be helpful for her during her grief. Maybe there's some things that can be pleasant for her to kind of remind her of these memories, or activities that she used to do. Absolutely. So the last thing I'll cover, I keep saying that. I'm just summarizing here. I just want to wrap up before I let you all go, that emotion regulation skills really do help teach people how to label, identify, learn those emotions, and ultimately increase their emotional resilience to improve how they're feeling on a daily basis. For homework, between now and next week, simply practice identifying and labeling emotion and ask yourself if this emotion fits the facts. If not, acting opposite. So if you're feeling sadness and you want to withdraw, how can you get active? How can you act opposite? If you're feeling, anger, frustration, instead of attacking or instead of engaging in something ineffective, can you avoid, can you be, Marshall Linehan calls it, be a little nice or be kind, exploring how you might act opposite. And we love for you to take a moment to complete our anonymous evaluation. This is for this session specifically. It is for DBT part 3. Again, we have one more part that's coming up, but this is anonymous and would love your feedback on how we did today and any suggestions for the future. This session was recorded and will be available to review later. Absolutely. we encourage you to join us next Wednesday. Oh, wrong day. Wrong day. Sorry, that's the wrong day. Next Wednesday is already November 6th. I'm 1 week behind. So November 6th, 12 to 1:30 PST. I'll be here Pacific Standard Time for DBT skills training session 4, strategies for interpersonal effectiveness. So that's again November 6th, a week from today. Want to share some resources? You're so welcome. Some additional books. I'll share these next time as well. These two in the middle are like the books to have if you're someone who's interested in DBT skills specifically. Again, this is so helpful for people in supportive housing and supportive employment, in the community and outpatient care. Anywhere, these skills are so important. Also, these resources at the bottom here. So if you're interested in learning more about DBT, or if you're interested in becoming a Linehan board certified clinician, some links below. And then there's a Rutgers YouTube with another department at Rutgers, not our department, but they created this DBT RU, which provides really brief skills for DBT. Thank you again for being here. You're so welcome. References, and here's my email if you ever have any questions. Don't hesitate to reach out. But again, I will see you all next week, November 6th, 12 to 1:30 for session 4. Thank you all so much for being here. So nice to share the space with you. Thank you for engaging and thank you for being so kind. I'm right on time. It's a miracle. Wishing you all a wonderful rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you, everyone. Take care. You're welcome.